You guys ever wonder what a unflavored creatine in water looks like? It's kind of gross, to be honest. Welcome to another video in which we talk about the best range classes and even some of the worst range classes and why they're kind of getting into that so far. If you guys don't know me, my name is Michael Hogman. I make a lot of guides and keep you up to date with World of Warcraft news. And we are going to dive into what, in my opinion, is going to be the best classes so far in this season. Obviously, this stuff is subject to change if stuff gets nerfed or buffed. But I do think that there is a pretty clear meta that is shifting in the patch 7.3. And I want to talk about it. I want to talk about which classes are doing very well. So let's just dive into it. The very first class that I want to talk about is going to be the Shadow Priest, which in my opinion is seeing the most play out of pretty much all the classes right now. Is because the Shadow Priest are able to fit into so many different comps because they're so strong right now. Shadow Priest have this ability to basically, like, whenever they're able to free cast, they do an immense amount of damage, like 400,000 DPS in Arena, which is a lot. Like, most classes do anywhere between 270k to 360k. Shadow Priest, when they're left alone, do 400k and up, right? And what's really, really crazy about that is that they pair very well with pretty much all the other strong classes right now. They pair really well with Restoration Shamans as a healer. They pair really, really well with Warlocks, Affliction Warlocks, or Destruction Warlocks, which I'll talk about in a little bit. They pair well with Feral Druids. They pair well with Rogues. They pair well with pretty much anything. Even Demon Hunters are seeing like more play with Shadow Priests. They offer a lot of different utility aspects, whether it's the life swap ability that people are using more and more nowadays over the Siphfiend. They have another defensive which is Dispersion on a shorter cooldown that can deal with more melee cleaves. And since you're seeing warriors and more of those like really, really aggressive immobile DPS classes, they're kind of becoming weaker, right? And that's what Shadow Priests really struggle against, is those immobile but very, very high damage melee classes, because Shadow Priests are not immobile. So when you pair like a mage or something against like an arcane mage against an arms warriors might be very strong at that time, but since they can't catch the arcane mage, you know, it's just that's kind of the weakness of warrior, right? But since you're seeing those classes that counter Shadow Priest kind of die down, I think that the Shadow Priest is seeing more and more light because of that. They do really well in this current meta, and they're able to put out so much damage that it just is a solid fit. So that's kind of like, in my opinion, the strongest class. I think that the other classes that Shadow Priests do pair well are also going to make it into this video in terms of the strongest classes. And the next one I want to talk about, which is something that I have not been able to say in quite some time, but Destruction Warlocks are doing very, very fantastic in this meta. I think it's because of the comp that has been more so in the limelight, right? This comp in particular, which is Shadow Priest, Restoration Shaman, and Destruction Warlock, this comp has been told throughout the Rank 1 community that this comp is really good, but nobody played it. Last season it was really good. Nobody really played it. Only like 1 or 2 people played it every now and then. And I think that was a huge mistake, and I think that now this comp is really getting the spotlight that it kind of deserves, right? So Destruction Warlock and Shadow Priest pairing well together, that, you know, why? I think the main thing for this is because of what I just explained, how the immobile stronger classes or stronger melee classes are weaker now. The Warlock is kind of in the same position as the Shadow Priest, and especially a Destruction Warlock. This class in particular, I feel that the Shadow Priest and the Destruction Warlock both enter an arena with kind of the same presence, where you have to have this ever-ending interrupt rotation to stop that player from casting, and when there's 2 of them, it's a lot harder, right? It's definitely a lot harder, and the Destruction Warlock and the Shadow Priest both bring a lot of threat to an arena where you have to interrupt them. If you don't, you're going to get punished in a lot of ways. If you don't interrupt the Shadow Priest, you're eventually going to all rot, and all of your teammates are going to go down slowly in health. If you don't interrupt the Destruction Warlock, you're going to get bolted. You're going to get Chaos bolted, and that's going to be a ton of damage in an instant, right? And that's something that you can't really deal with. So I think that paired together with a very disruptive healer that is able to stop these burst comps and these cleaves to a fair extent, which is going to be the Restoration Shaman. I think that durable healer paired with these 2 classes who bring the presence and bring the damage, make for a very good comp. So with that being said, those are my top 2 strongest classes right now. I do think that the Affliction Warlock is also doing very well because they're able to pair with Feral Druids, and they're able to pair with Shadow Priests, and they're able to pair with Rogues even, and even Warriors. The Affliction Warlock had some problems earlier because, well, they didn't have problems at the beginning of the start of Season 4 because they were extremely overpowered. They were doing like double the amount of damage as most classes in Arena, and that was due to some reworks that came out in 7.2.5, and then they got nerfed, right? So now that they are slowly getting more and more buffed, and the melee classes are getting slowly nerfed, you're seeing Affliction Warlocks come back out into the game again, and that means that the meta is more so around the Shadow Priest and Warlock combo, whatever spec that they are, and that really does kind of make every other range class struggle. So it's like the Lock Shaman meta, like that's a pretty known term. The Lock Shaman meta is doing so well that classes like Mage, classes like Hunter even, even Ellie Shaman is doing okay, but even Moonkin is not doing so hot. And a lot of those range classes are just not as strong as the Lock Shaman, the Lock Shadow Priest, the Shaman Shadow Priest meta. And that's just kind of like the dominant caster right now. And I think that over time, if you see classes like the Shadow Priest, or even like the counters to Shadow Priest or the counters to Affliction Warlock become stronger, that's when you'll see those classes start to die down a little bit more. But then, when we see like Rogue or Mage, if either of those get buffed in any sense, I feel like those are right in between and right in the middle right now, and I feel like there is a really big possibility to see a Rogue Mage meta coming up if 1 or 2 of those classes are buffed. Because like the Discipline Priest, for example, isn't doing so hot. Like their damage or their healing output is very low, and that's something I'll get into tomorrow for my healing video. And also the Restoration Druid, which is another Rogue Mage healer, they aren't doing so hot either. So if any of these classes get buffed, I think that the Rogue Mage meta is going to be coming soon. But right now I'm seeing a lot of Shadow Priest, Affliction Warlock, Restoration Shaman, and X, whatever other teammate that they decide to pick up. So that's just something I feel that is happening. Unfortunately, like classes like Hunter aren't doing so hot. And I hope to see more diversity. I feel like Season 3 was awesome for diversity, but ever since then it's kind of been like a push and pull of one side of these classes and then another side of these classes. It's not really everybody involved. So it is what it is. It's just the way that Blizzard tunes things. And I hope that it gets fixed. I hope that it is continued to talk about. And if you guys want to leave me your opinion down below, I would love to hear it. Feel free to leave all of the thoughts down in the comments below as to what you think about what I said in this video. And you can also leave your opinion about what you think are the best classes and why, or why you think that a certain class is weak. So leave that down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give a big thumbs up on it. I really do appreciate it because it supports the channel very much. And you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel to keep up with future videos and updates. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you all tomorrow.